Hello, everyone. Welcome to an all new episode of the Indic Paradigm. Please do like, comment, share, and subscribe to the Indic Explorer channel. This channel looks essentially at the themes of Indic culture and its interplay with modernity. Now, the most important challenge that Indic modernity faces is how do you remain alive and part of the modern world and still be culturally rooted? Because essentially, modernity in the Western paradigm has always had this context that it tends to destroy the older way of doing things and completely establishes something new. And this often leads to cultural deracination. So, to talk about this issue of cultural deracination among the Dharmic youth and how we can better improve cultural literacy in the next generation, I have with me a very distinguished guest on the show. Welcome to the show, Ratan Sharda ji.
Namaskar.
Namaste.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yes. So, what I want to lay some context to this conversation. Why do you think youngsters in India and even Dharmic youth in the diaspora, why do you think they are feeling culturally like they are going, they are wavering from the culture, they are getting deracinated? What do you think are the key reasons for this?
Well, Vineet, you seem to be young enough to actually identify with the generation you're talking about. I come from the previous generation. And for me, if I say something, people will say, "Ra buda ho gaya, isko to sab lagta hai bekar hai." But I have been quite close to youth, and I have always been kind of iconoclast in the sense about what generally the so-called traditional way of life is and what our Hindu way of life is. And I come from Xavier's College, where what today's youth think is cool used to be cool in Xavier's at that time. You know what I mean? Every kind of thing, from drink to or sex to alcohol, everything. And still we could survive, and we could have good relations and friendship there also. So that is the context from where we come, that what was there around in 1970, 80 is now become common. At that time, it was limited to a few so-called elite institutions and elite people in that society who had the best of life and were being modern meant to be westernized. And that is where the problem lies, that if you think you are modern, you have to look westernized, you have to behave westernized, you must like Western music, you must like Hollywood movies, so then you are cool. That is all the definition at my time was, and that hasn't changed much actually if I really look at it. And if you say from where did the deracination come, it comes from my generation. When I say so, I mean that we as children had the luxury of having our parents who are rooted in traditions, who are rooted in our religious ethos, and we picked up something from them. Like the our Puranas, our literature, and our various traditions. But somehow we could not pass it on because we captured only 20-30% of what our parents did. We went to temples, we heard lectures, we were shown religious movies, etc. We had daily puja at home, and we had Akhand Ramayana part, etc. Some of that seeped into us. That is true of most of our typical middle class families. But then as our children grew, we were not able to transmit what we learned. Again, it went partially. So if we learned 30% of the parents, we could pass on only 10% of that to the children. Now, those children, that is children of, let us say, 30-35 year old, have some inkling of the culture. But when they become parents, they can pass on nothing to the children. Or people of your age, or people of say 20s, etc., their parents didn't pass anything to the children. On the top of that, the school education, which our time had some sense of belonging. We had Tulsidas, we had Ramayana, we had Hindi poets, and we had a lot of local stories and local poems in our own language, in especially in language schools. When it came to the English speaking class, which still rules the roost in governance in terms of influence on the society, they all went to English schools. The syllabus was such that they had no clue at all what is India, what is Indian culture, what is Indian ethos, Indian knowledge system. None of it. So with that plain slate, we got our children brought up. And now the today's generation, its deracination begins right from the day of their first birthday. So first birthday becomes a kind of orgy, you khana pine ki orgy and drink ki orgy. In fact, today they go and to the extent of child तो बेचारा रो रहा है धो रहा है उसने एक बार बत्ती बुझा दी वो तो बेचारा सो गया और पेरेंट्स सारे बाद में ड्रिंक और पार्टी कर रहे हैं और यही बर्थडे है. So this goes on for nearly 5-6 years. By the time their parents don't take them, ask him to do any arti, any puja, they don't want to take him to temple. There is a gentleman here who does havan once in a month for the children of that month's birth. And he finds about just 15-20 parents who bring their children for the havan. But none of the parents think it's nice thing or it's really pious to get our children to know what a birthday is, not blowing out light, but actually lighting the light. So this lighting of the lamp and going to the temple and doing puja for a birthday, this is never done for the children. So as a child, I have no exposure at all to what my religion is, what my traditions are. So with this, when you talk of stories, you go for Doraemon, you go for all kind of Western comic strips or animations. None of the Indian stories. We go for we don't go for Indian rhymes. We go for Western rhymes. And the funny part is that Western rhymes are mostly negative. Western stories are mostly negative, scary, while our own stories, our own poems are all positive. When you really go to think about it in a serious manner, you will realize what I mean. When you talk of Humpty Dumpty fell from wall, etc. Vis-a-vis our positive poetries, we say yere yere pausa tula de to paisa. We welcome rains, and Western people say rain rain go away. So this contrasting cultures was never passed on to the children. So that child, once he is more identifying with the Western symbolism, he goes to school. Now, so second stage of deracination starts in the school. So we have in schools where there is no knowledge at all about our culture, no Gita, no Bal Ramayana, no Bal Gita, no Upanishadic stories, no Panchatantra, etc. Again, we go back to totally neutral, neutered stories, narratives. We never taught our children, our parents are not even giving them, for example, cultural stories, Hindi stories, Hindu stories. I have found it that my grandchildren are just 3 year old, 5 year old. They can sing shlokas. They enjoy hearing to podcast of Indian stories, but most of the parents don't do it. They give the mobile in the hand of the child. He sees some animation movies because they want him to eat, not trouble them. Then they go to school. In school, you have no knowledge at all about your culture or about your ethos or about your stories. They end up again copying the West. So thereon we have no history. We have when you go to maths, they don't tell you that maths comes from India, science comes from India. So you are totally looking at the West as a superior power as compared to what India is. India is nothing but Jativad or caste or insulting the women or patriarchy. So this lessons that child runs in the school again makes him go away from the cultural roots. As he goes into the society, then the third factor. That factor is the social society around us. So with most of the children looking at West, looking at Western music, watching Western movies, having no clue at all what is India, what is Bharat, what is our culture and religion, they now in an ecosystem where they don't really realize what our country is. So they move to college. And college, you have got wonderful Western concept. You have got neoliberal ideas, new left ideas, where you believe that your own personal space, your own personal freedom is the ultimate, most important part. And there is no importance to family, no importance to society, to the nation. So they want to shy away from any issue which deserves their so-called comfort level, where they can just chat, they can just smoke, they can just drink and enjoy life, that they will not even participate. So this movement from totally westernized, or I would say deracinated childhood, to the school, to the teenage, when they are not interested in anything which is a little serious, you see where the deracination takes you. So this, in short, is the path to deracination of the youth, I would say. And from there on, you will realize that why things don't go the way we wish them to go. Of course, there is a small segment of 5 to 10% youth who are very, very much alive now, who are close to the cultural roots, who want to know what is happening, who question me or question you that why Gita is like that, what is the Quran, what is Bible, what is written in Gita, what is Mahabharata. Our people don't even know the characters of Mahabharata and Gita. So naturally, how do we know the lesson? So somebody passes a message कि Ravan is better than Ram because Ram asked Sita to give a test. and Ravan lost his life for his sister, we pass on the messages without realizing the cultural significance what is being told to us. This in short, for example, now Holika, who was actually high caste and privileged woman, now is supposed to be Dalit who was burned by a fire of the high class, and they were the same caste. So these stories mean nothing to us because we don't even know our shastras, our tradition, our knowledge system, or even mathematics or science. So with no pride at all, no urge to know, which is dented by the kind of education we have, you end up with such a child or such a teenage.
You raise two very interesting points that I really liked. One was this part where you actually make the previous generation accountable, which is a very I mean the youth of the 70s 80s, the your generation who are parents today, grandparents, etc., because transmission happens from one generation
Correct.
to other, or if that link breaks or it reduces somewhere, then
Right.
it's going to accelerate further. So that's a very honest self
See,
introspection
at
that
least
you
in my
made for
time,
that generation.
we had mothers who gave time. Now, because both the members of the family, both parents are working, they have no time. So, solution is mobile and a maid.
Exactly.
That is the solution. मोबाइल लगा दो, मेड को पकड़ा दो और अपना जो करना है करो. टाइम नहीं है भैया, आई हैव नो टाइम. मुझे कल का वो खत्म करना है प्रोजेक्ट, मुझे अपना असाइनमेंट खत्म करना है, आई हैव टू रश टू द ऑफिस. सो दिस आई डोंट नो वेदर earning that money which doesn't have a happy family or a child who is reared well, then you keep on apologizing to the child, who keep on trying to shower the love when you got time, but you're not imbibing any values to the child. Well, that needs time and patience. So that's where the actual parents are actually responsible. We are responsible not passing enough knowledge or enough I would say even respect for what we were to the children. And now today's generation is such that they are so busy with their own lives, they do not children, they do not family. And this lack of respect for family and your lack of respect for society comes from the new left ideas that are floating around, and imagination that left is totally against right, but basic individual freedom, extreme individual freedom, has come from the west, from the capitalist system. And that extreme individualism which doesn't suit Bharatiya way of life is what is disturbing the balance of the society.
So there is one second thing I want to ask you, and this is basically with because you mentioned the role of family is so important, right? Do you think somewhere the I won't say the complete breakup, but the kind of decline of the joint family system, and by joint family here I don't mean like five brothers, and I just basically mean parents, grandparents,
Right,
at least that much, right?
right.
Like a basic joint family. The case of the missing grandparent, especially in urban India, do you think that has some role to play as well?
In fact, the nuclear family or atomization of family has brought out the importance of grandparents. The children used to think that parents are a nuisance because every young man thinks that parents are nuisance. By the time he becomes a little older, he realizes that actually they are the asset. Now, what happens that when they are both busy, then the grandparents are very important. Fourth, they invite grandparents to stay with them, and they want them to be around because values are transmitted then by their grandparents to the children. And grandparents are patient. When I was not patient with my children, I'm patient with my grandchildren. So this patience and this kind of knowledge that grandparents and love that they pass on to children is very important. And that is why today's youth actually wants the grandparents as a standby. So that what was not important then as parents who was sort of nuisance on their freedom now become important because when they are there, the young parents are free. So that is why importance of grandparents there where they're missing, you will definitely find children not being happy because at least when there were two children minimum together, they had their own company. Now with single child, it's a huge risk. You are sending out to the society your child in a society, in a housing, or to the people next door who are again children are alone. So they will try to do what is not desirable because they must rebel, they must do something to disturb the parents and gain their attention. So that is the most dangerous part when child remains alone at home. Okay, we're in a society, middle class society, I've got people playing on the ground. But when you're living in villas or living in standalone homes and child is alone, how terrible the childhood would be. They may look very happy, but then they're first to get a chance to do something which doesn't which is normally not considered good, and the child just goes down the line, and that is the most dangerous thing. Say single child norm, even for the child's health, is very important. Psychological strength and lack of stress and comfort comes with the parents and grandparents. Now with grandparents that is possible yet. Before, grandparents say, no, I want to live alone. There are grandparents who say that, I'm better off alone. Or, you go. Now today's advertisement tell children to go buy a separate home. That is not India. But this is what being sold subtly by the bank loan people, for example. So parents says, beta naya ghar le lo. Ma says the son, beta naya ghar le lo. They don't say, let us buy a bigger house. They say, tum naya ghar le lo. मैं भी तुमको कितना संभालूंगा. So this is not Indian attitude. This is not Indian tradition. And this security of the joint family, of course, we are talking of nuclear family as compared to the atomized family. But I am saying joint family where there are at least brothers next door. I know of a Marwadi family, a single khandan or clan living in a society where they've got 5 flats on 5 floors. So they are independent where they are together. This security of joint family and grandparents, that is immeasurable, and that is most valuable, invaluable thing that we have today. And I hope that children and the grandchildren realize this. Grandchildren, of course, they miss their grandparents, but even parents have to realize that it's atomic family where only they live, or single mother family, single parent family, is actually we may be happy, but we don't know whether the child is happy. You can pour child love on the child, but not give that kind of comfort, that kind of security, that kind of knowledge, or very easy passing on knowledge that can happen with a little bigger family.
And the other thing here is with grandparents, they are kind of, like you mentioned, they are the cooler parents, right? Because they don't have that immediate responsibility of their own offspring, and they've also wizened with the experience of child rearing in their days.
True.
So they kind of make up for it and spoil you a little bit. Even when you pass those values, it should not look like you're lecturing or imposing it on them, and grandparents are somehow able to walk that path very, very well.
Right.
So that I think is a very crucial
in fact, I know of
aspect
families,
that has been missed out.
Every family, including my family, where our children tell us to speak with the child in mother tongue because they speak in English. So it's our responsibility to teach them the native language or the common language. And I have seen that many families across, they realize the values being lost. See, we are running a Bal Gokulam kind of facility. We are running in schools in 1 hour in a week. We are doing it in societies also now. It is very popular. What we simply do is that for 1 hour, and we tell them what is the important date today in this particular week, what is the importance of history in that particular date, what is the significance of the Hindu festival of the day, and we tell them about certain shlokas of what we call subhashits and their meanings, and we tell them some good patriotic songs, and the teachers are happy, parents are happy, and child is happy. And parents tell us we didn't even know this. So teachers are all voluntary women, and about 90% women, 10% men. They tell us we didn't even know all this. So they happily learn, then they pass on this information to the children. Children are happy. And one of the principals says, Baba, you start taking it in the higher classes also. We are doing 5th, 6th. My wife goes there regularly. The principal says, my God, children of 7th are so rogue. I think you should start these sanskar classes for the higher grades also. So they know that after the child goes through this simple training or simple learning, they become much more better students. So the simple Indian value system that we provide to the child, just 1 hour in a week, or in societies also one day in a week for just 1 hour, that gives them so much to know, so much to understand, and so much to enjoy, that it is cool. I mean, what we call cool. Children find it good, and parents are surprised that my child is telling all this. We didn't even know. He tells me what is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. He tells me that what is Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina. And this value system is so easy to give. And parents welcome it. They want us to start in more societies because that is the starting point. Once you imbibe that very basic knowledge about your tradition, your culture, and knowledge system, the child will go ahead and try to learn more. He or she will definitely say, Baba, if you're saying maths is like this and Brahmagupta gave certain mathematical formula, let me know. Because in school, there is nothing more than Pythagoras. There is nothing more than Mughal rule. But when we tell your children about Chola Rajas, about Lachit Barfukan, about various other kingdoms and various other, ancient history, they are very happy. This happiness we don't even share with the children because they were not taught. So that sense of alienation with our own culture, with our own systems, can be easily filled up. And once these people go through this initial schooling and they imbibe these values, then on they will find their own way. So our job is basically to provide this information in the best possible entertaining manner. There is a podcast called Adichi. He's so successful with wonderful Indian stories in English and Hindi that they have their subscriptions now. They are going ahead with some, short films also, and there is huge demand. Similarly, if you go for some of the sites which give information in an informative manner, youth are following them in millions. So there is no difficult because we have got such wonderful ideas. When we tell people it is only Hindutva or Hinduism which gives place to LGBT, which doesn't criminalize LGBT, which talks of equality, which talks of preserving the nature, which talks about all the best value system that we can talk about today, climate control, etc. We already believe in not sustainable, limited consumption, giving respect to all the faiths and all thoughts. This is not even known to our people. They don't know that basically the best of the ideas of the world are with us. When we impart this information to the youth, they'll definitely love it. So then deracination goes totally out of the window.
So I want to ask you something here. Do you think that somewhere understanding versus rote learning, and I'll tell you from where I'm coming. Sometimes what happens is that people teach shlokas, which are largely in Sanskrit, right? Many of them or most of them. So even I know a few shlokas, but I don't know what they mean. Similarly, many kids, probably people feel, oh, shlokas ya chanting sikha diya. Okay, that should be enough going, but they don't know what it means. So the lack of understanding, like for example, Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Like, why do you say it 3 times? Why not 6 times? There is a reason for that. But they don't know these things, right? The understanding bit of it. Do you think somewhere that is also causing some disconnect? One. Second thing, which I wanted to say, Hinduism as a religion is more of a practice. Like, practice is essentially more important than even belief sometimes, right? Like the discipline with which you do the puja every day at a certain time with a certain paddhati, that is more important than even belief. So the lack of discipline in practice is actually a bigger issue than, how rigidly they believe something or not. So these 2 factors I wanted you to dwell on. What do you think about this?
See, ritualism is only part of religion. Unfortunately, what happened that we see South has been able to preserve the Hindu religion much better than the North side, I would say. I come from North. I have been to the South many times. I have seen both the sides, all the sides of Bharat across the dimensions. That ritualism has saved Hindu Dharma in a big way, but that strict following of the ritual is not easy. So children tend to leave it aside. Now, leaving the side also takes them away from the religion. While rituals are important, rituals are not everything. Explanation of our belief system, explanation of our traditions, explanation of so many stories that we seem to be conflict with each other. They are to be explained to the children when they raise questions. And one other girl, I think Shruti, became Hindu again. Her story, she said that I would ask my parents that what is ritual is, what this particular kind of shloka is. They would say, don't ask questions, just follow. Now she had so much of quest. Then when she went to a college which was actually a Muslim college, and she raised them same questions, because that religion is so simplistic. Islam and Christianity is very simplistic religions, so they gave some simple answers. And she was very happy. They took her to Maulana, and Maulana started teaching her, and slowly she went that way. So that gave me a very important clue that unless we are able to simplify religion, our system, and highlight the basic tenets which actually distinguish us from other religions in a positive manner, without downrating the other religions, that would give them confidence that they are following a very good, wonderful global religion than following a closed system. This openness of system, which actually gives us strength, also is a weakness, because youth has no time, youth has no patience to learn the intricacies of the dharma, or so many kind of stories and so many kind of complicated things that our pundits tell us. So it's important to simplify religion in a way where they understand, provide simple things rather than going through complete ritual. Puja is ready to just, the person is ready to just arti. Will the child come to the puja room just to chant a couple of shlokas? Later he'll learn more and explain the shlokas. As I said, explain the stories. I found children very interested. So can we simplify our offering to the children, which they are easier to imbibe? Can we offer the same system to youth who ask questions? You cannot stop questions. And Hinduism is the only religion which actually encourages you to ask questions. After all, Gita, Upanishad, all of them are asking questions. Krishna said, shut up, you don't understand in two chapters, ladna ki ladna, gar jane to. He didn't say that. He went on and on for all the chapters, 18 chapters. So similarly, this patience to explain what we know. If we don't know, can we ask somebody to explain? If we don't do that, then you have a problem. Because today's youth ask questions, we didn't ask questions. जो पेरेंट्स ने बोला सुन लो, कर लो, धीरे धीरे बड़े होते होते सीख जाएंगे. सो एज यू ग्रो यू लर्न that what my parents were saying was right. But today, young children want answers. Why you are keeping lamp like this? Why you are keeping a particular murti like this? Children ask questions. If this generation asks questions, you have to provide answers. You cannot say shut up. And for that, parents also need to read. That is where the problem is. In one of our camps, this sanskar camps, one of the teachers told the children that when you reach home in the night, tell your parents to give one story, Hindu story, before you go to sleep. And after 1 week, they met the parents. Parents said it was a big problem for us. We didn't know any stories. So we had to Google the stories, but we are happy. We are happy that we could at least teach my child something and also learn in the process. So when parents are ready to learn a little, they can imbibe much better qualities to the child, and child will be happy asking more questions. Because we are the only one who are answering questions. Tell me which other religion gives you answer for some question that you don't have answer to. If you ask them how the world was made in 7 days, and when there was no light, how did the God actually made something, right? Why did God forget to make a female? If you ask these questions, where are the answers? But we have answers. But we have to learn a little bit. So the parents, grandparents, they have a role to play. And the websites which are giving wonderful information, they have to be collated. They have to be given to the child. So even if he sits on the mobile or a laptop, at least he or she sees something nice. He or she doesn't see something negative or destructive. So solutions are available. And youth are ready to learn. Youth are ready to understand. But how to simplify the learning, how to offer them the beauty of the open architecture, beauty of so many dimensions of the religion. One of my nieces asked me when I was young that what to do. You have so many gods. I mean, how many gods can I worship? I'm very confused. I said, don't get confused. You pick up one god you like and follow the god. That is the whole idea of Hinduism. As a dharma, we say, okay, if you believe in peaceful kind of in a meditative silence, look at Buddha. You want to be powerful, look at Hanuman. You like feminine, Shakti, you look at Durga. So these various aspects of godhood, which we understand as different facets of the same God, this beauty can be conveyed, then the children don't get confused. Then that girl went and became ISKCON Bhakt, my niece, and she was very happy. So you have to provide the right answers. For that, parents need to have patience. For that, young people need to have patience, and we have to create more literature. See, we don't like Devdutt Patnaik anymore because typical Vendi Donegar Bhakt. But he started the trend. He provided books which provided answers. My daughter said, why don't I get Devdutt after he gave me so many information which nobody gave me? And she loved the books. Then I had to explain to her what is wrong today. But in a way, he opened the doors. Amish Tripathi, some people don't like because it distorts the original story. But then youth is following it. Ashwin Sanghi mixes up the mythology with history and facts so beautifully. The young people love it. So there are solutions available. There are no shortcuts. Because we, in our dharma, we don't believe in shortcuts. And simplest shortcut is a bhakti. But bhakti also, children will ask questions. Surrender is fine. And as a Hindu civilization, we must encourage, we should not stop skepticism. We should not hate questions. That is our beauty. And we are able to, harness that beauty. Then children will realize that we are following the best possible religion. That is where
Correct.
the
In
beauty
fact,
is.
it's a religion of seekers, right? The rishis, that's what they did. They hadn't come to a conclusion. They
And as I say many times, the answers to all the global problems are with the Hindu Dharma. And once you tell this wonderful thing that Modi ji is telling the world today, people will say, "Oh God, this is the thing already there available."
Correct.
So when you youth know that what I am doing for ecology has already been recommended by our Vedas and our holy books, you will say, "Okay, this is a religion which is modern." And which religion, science can keep on challenging and still religion survives? Only Hinduism. Which religion with dharma has all the aspects of science covered within itself? Only Hindu Dharma. Unless we are able to transmit this, information, transmit this sense of elite, way of looking at the world and the global and the universal issues, young people will not realize what wonderful treasure they have at home.
And you made a very important point, and it's part of a larger thing. I feel that somewhere I feel that traditionalists who really guard and hold the culture so valuably, right, the practices and all of that, sometimes it they can also discourage, because when you're talking to a kid or a youngster, you have to first get them into the puja room. You have to funnel them in for them to then dive deeper.
Right.
Before, as soon as you open the door, if you expect that everything has to be at an expert level, then people will not walk into the door itself. I think many people lose sight
Yeah.
somewhere. I think the
Yeah.
packaging,
Yeah.
presenting it in a digestible, simplified form so people will take more interest, is where I think it is.
See, that happens when you start taking the kids to the आरती or puja at the age of 2 3 years, then they enjoy. अगर हमने बर्थडे पे हवन ही किया नहीं तो how does the child understand what is हवन? If he doesn't come for the aarti, he doesn't, and the child immediately start reciting with you. My both grandchildren, as I told you, they could recite the aarti, they could recite shlokas at the age of 2 3 years. They will realize the answer later on. They will realize the meaning later on, but they enjoy it. Now, if you are able to put that sense of fun in the child, that okay, following religious rituals or doing this actually is fun. And if you make it, what happens now? Children say, "कोई तो खेल ले, हम पूजा कर लेंगे." You go ahead at you with a play and whatever, we'll do the puja and we'll give you our prasad. That is where the problem is. That we don't even want to give that basic culture to the
Correct.
child. And for that only family, nothing else can help.
Coming to the second part of our conversation, which is basically how do we build that dharmic cultural literacy, uh, I can see four key stakeholders in this, and what I want your take on what role each of these can play: the family, the state. I know I mean, it brings a smile to my face to even say the word state. The family, the state, the temple and religious institutions, and lastly, the school and the educational system. What role do you think ideally they can play to improve this?
See, actually, when you say state and education, they are the same. I would say, in the sense that the education comes through state. So, in a way, you are not wrong. Because state cannot actually dictate dharma. It is the school education that will dictate dharma. And unfortunately, we are following a constitution with so-called secularism as its foundational principle, which was not there in the original constitution, which is taken to extremely negative manner. So I'll come back to your question. As I said, in case of family, has already gave an answer that parents need to own up, that they must take the child to temple, to home. We must have a temple at home. Do we have it? I doubt it. Matchbox kind of a compartment, apartments that we have in cities, in villages, of course, and bigger tier 2 cities, they have bigger houses. Have we kept a good place for the mandir? I doubt. Do we daily light the lamp? I doubt. At least, especially about the young parents. About our age, yes, definitely. So unless we start with the very basics, and let us say for the young parents, let us start with podcasts which tell basically Indian stories, Bharatiya stories, and nice rhymes which are imbibed with Hindu values. Unless we explain, have those things given to the children, and the animations which are actually good Puranic stories, that is where the child can get attracted in the new mode. In the old mode, I said typically traditional, we must start our own puja, our own recitations every day, or at least once a week. If that happens, child gets familiar with what it is. When child goes to school and somebody says, I had gone to my Sunday school, I had gone to my Jain school, I had gone to my my mosque, what does our child say? Nothing, because he doesn't go anywhere. He doesn't know birthday के ऊपर लाइट जलाना नहीं चाहिए, बुझाना नहीं चाहिए, जलाना चाहिए. He doesn't know, or she doesn't know. So these values have to be done by family, and for this, the parents have to reinvent themselves. They have to go back to the parents' life and see what they learn from them, and at least that much they should imbibe to the child. So at least till the age of the children going to school, and of course after that also, as I said, we are talking of Gopal Gokulam. I talked about sanskar kendras for the young boys and girls that will carry on till at least 5th, 6th year of age, where slowly start telling them about mathematical achievements, your scientific achievements, our wonderful inventors, our wonderful riches, having so much of knowledge and sharing that they feel pride when they go to school. Okay, this particular trigonometry equation was from our earlier rishis. So this kind of sense of pride with our own existing knowledge, not some mythical knowledge, existing knowledge, when it goes to the child, if it's not given in school, we should provide that knowledge. We should buy such books, provide such books to children, and they will happily read it. You read them out to them. After all, you're reading some comics to them, no? At the dinner table, the child says, "You tell me a story." So what does a parent do? Pick up some Western story. Let him pick up some Hindi story. Let us pick up some Bharatiya story. Let him or her start with some recitation of these good stories, positive stories. With this, when you move to the school, new education policy is coming. We may be cynical, but I think we should be having trust that in next 2 years, we'll find books which will have typical Bharati traditional value system, our own independent way of thinking, more let us rote and more of comprehension, and of course with more of traditional knowledge system, even tribal knowledge system, or change history where we can also talk of all history of all parts of India, which you don't talk about. It is highly Delhi centric. So when you start looking at India as such a huge entity where everybody is working towards the same goal, for example, independence struggle was not Delhi or Mumbai centric, not urban centric. It was right from the tribal people to the extreme corners of India. Once we start telling all this to children with that kind of education, he or she will have pride in our knowledge, in our nation, and our systems. When that happens, naturally, the child, when the young person goes out with sense of responsibility, with sense of love for the country and pride of the country, not ego, but pride of the country, with knowledge, not just just because my Bharat is Mahan. Why my Bharat is Mahan? So there is satire, ye bhi, wo bhi, to bhi, Bharat Mahan. But actually, what is Mahan about it? Can we tell? Once we start telling, the child has a sense of belonging. Youth has a sense of belonging. So that is up to the level of education. Then as you know the social level, then of course the child is big enough and we have to challenge the notion that westernization is modernization. And once the child at the teenage is confident enough about our culture, he has some basic knowledge, he starts hearing to those wonderful things that we have, and then looking at West from Indian perspective. When you look at West from Indian perspective, you don't get blown away. I might listen to Western music if I like it. I might listen to jazz, but from Indian sensibilities. So we have to develop those Indian sensibilities which are missing today, and also counter this huge new left propaganda of hegemony of patriarchy. So family is a patriarchy of the father, or husband wife, husband is patriarch, misogyny when only there is one-sided love, and all this sense of freedom where a child can take care of itself and we must enjoy life. So when this sense of family breaks, then the child breaks. You will see maximum unhappy children who are rebelling are ones who are single child, or whose parents don't live with them, or single parent child, because that is a natural outburst. So once we go back to the family system, the importance of family system, why it is needed, and why are we there? Are we there only to enjoy the life? So for there, you have to again go back to Hindu value system. What I am here for in this world, what I am going to achieve, where I am going to end up. Once we start that questioning, then the parents realize that I am not here just to enjoy life for myself. I have to do something for the family, for the society, for the nation. Once this sense of responsibility takes place, what we call dharma, as a nagarik, dharma as a citizen, dharma as a parent, dharma as a citizen of this nation, when the sense of dharma comes in, then everything will fall into place. For that, you have to imbibe the child from childhood in the school and all that. I'll tell you one story. I was in during emergency. I met one of the senior of first generation pracharak. He was Bapurao Moge, who actually got Raju Bhaiya into RSS. Raju Bhaiya was fourth Sarsang Chalak. So this Bapurao Moge was underground during the emergency. So we were escorting these people to different meetings. And I asked them that nowhere in the world there is something called RSS Shakha. There are youth, there are young people, but there is no Shakha anywhere. So why do we need Shakha in India? As young person, as impatient anybody could be, that in the evening, rather than hanging around with boys and girls, I used to go to Shakha. So why do we need it? So he said, see, in world over, what values we imbibe actually, those are imbibed by world over by education system. So sense of patriotism, sense of belonging to the nation, or value systems, these are not taught by the schools. So even if you go to Christian school, Christian country, they've got wonderful moral, ethical classes. We know that. My brothers used to go to a convent school, and there was moral class where they used to be taught ethics, etc. But in any Hindu school, you can't teach them. So this lack of education or public responsibility, which is the job of the education system, is not there. So there is Shakha. He said the day the state and the education system starts providing this to the youth, RSS will not be required, Shakha will not be required. So this, in a nutshell, I can say that if we take up the responsibility, if our education system becomes much more, value oriented, much more ethics oriented, and much more attuned to providing the tools to the students, not just rote, but tools to the student to explore, then we'll have these issues solving themselves.
Now, I want to ask here specifically the role of religious institutions from two respects. One,
Yeah, sorry,
yeah,
I didn't
I
respond to
want
that.
to, I'll just clarify
Yeah.
slightly on what context. So,
Mhm.
I'll just give you my example. There's a family temple that I go in the locality, and we've been going there for like 20 plus years. I do not know a single person in all these years who frequents that temple. There is no sense of community. So I understand that it's not a congregational religion,
Yeah.
but still some form of community setup used to exist in the past. I've read about that, I know about that, but these days it's a very individual
Right.
experience. You go, you worship, you chant, you do a puja, you come back. There is no sense of community bonding or
Right.
community formation at all. Second thing is and this has been emphasized by a lot of people. Oh, Hindu temples are under government control. So they cannot improve cultural literacy because they are under
Yeah.
government. Do you think that if temples are decontrolled, let's say tomorrow, they'll be able to play this role?
So there are two aspects of the question. One is, of course, temple control, which I'll come to later. First of all, whether temples can do this even without, without worrying about the government control. Small temples like where you go, or we have Ayyappa temple in our own locality, for example, which is doing quite well. A lot of communities come there. Can they become the fulcrum of cultural activities in their own lay area? They can, but are they trying? They are not trying. So that responsibility of temples being the cultural centers, which was they were center of the hub, cultural commercial hub of that particular region, that is known. In fact, I'm editing a book by Sandeep Singh, which is on temple economics. So he explains how actually the entire, we know about it, but he's done a detailed research how temples were center of culture, renaissance, of art, drama, culture, commerce, industry, everything. Now, temples, those size of temples have lost control because government has taken them over. They have got funds, they have got resources, they are eaten away by the government. So decontrol is required, no doubt. But when it happens, are our temples socially responsible enough to create that kind of atmosphere? For that, they need to have a sense of responsibility. Do they have that sense of responsibility? Do they hold cultural events where people will come? Listen, there typically we have got Parleshwar temple in Vile Parle, which is a Maharashtrian owned temple, private trust, but very nice temple, well maintained. They have typical Buaji coming for bhajan, Guruji coming for bhajan, some prayer and all. And in all those congregations, you'll find some 20, 30 old men and women sitting. But do they have any program where youth will come to enjoy? If you see Diwali Sakal, there is Diwali Prabhat in Maharashtra, where on the Diwali day in the morning at 6:30, they do classical music. And those sabhas are becoming so popular. Diwali Pahad, they call it. Right from eastern suburbs to all over the place, thousand or more people come together for that particular event, young people. Can that be replicated? Why not? They can easily be replicated. Can they have pathshalas? Then can they have training centers where they will teach young children about value system that we are trying to do through our own Sanskar Kendra? They can. Nothing stops these temples, even those are not under government control or even under government control, do it. Okay, government IS officer is least interested, but other temples can do it. So this is where we lack that sense of community comes from the responsible people who can do it actually. So when they try to convert that center of temple into more of a cultural center, more of a social center, when such trustees come, things change. They should change. I've seen some temples who have changed their entire way because of new management. So temple control comes to the large temple when crores of rupees are there. Now they're already training priests. For example, Tirupati, they are training priests. They are doing some classes. They have got colleges. They have got schools. Everything. But that spirit of creating an ecosystem is missing. That is because of government control. So there, of course, government control has to go. But I know a very big center, temple. I was shocked to learn in a pilgrim center, which is one of the most, I would say, important, critically important temple. It is owned by a family. They don't give two hoots to any person who is coming there. They have no interest in social activity. They have no interest in giving any kind of traditional value system or imparting any value. They just it's a privilege for them. And if that temple is taken over, we'll cry, oh my God, temple is taken over. So, as a Hindu society, we too have certain responsibilities. That those who can do, are they doing enough? They need to be given that direction. They need to be told again and again that please, there are communities who are doing wonderful work. I'm not saying that none other community is doing. Again, government doesn't control is not there. But as a community, there are South Indian communities. There are communities in Gujarat, Maharashtra, who are doing wonderful job using those communities, those caste. I caste in a positive sense. Their associations where they are doing wonderful work. But that is more of a social work. But are they doing enough for the cultural work? And they have to think about that. So we as Hindus have to take responsibility. We can't throw it onto the government. When we take responsibility, things can change. There is enough resources even today. We started this cultural centers and a lot of others. There is a young man who started, Ramayan Ko Jano or something like that. I don't remember the name exactly. With a single school, now he's working in 1600 schools where he gives easy to learn Ramayana or Mahabharat, then takes question answer, then takes test, and young children give test, and there are Muslim girls and boys who win awards and rewards, and that is so very easy way to make children understand Ramayana, Mahabharat, etc. Does that require government support? No, he's a private organization. People are helping him. Similarly, what we are doing is totally free. Everybody is volunteering his own resources. Why others can't think about that? So this, unless we change our own thing, that we as people have responsibility to create a right environment. You can have hundreds of temples, nothing will happen. You have 10 temples, a lot of things can happen. And of course, you've got temples freed from government, you've got billions of rupees to spend on these kind of activities. So they can be done. So when you want to, let us say, support classical music, classical dance, and provide huge platform, you need money. You don't have to depend on government. Today, government takes away our money, then gives us saying that I am doing a favor to you. So that is required. At the same time, I said there is something more which can be done even we are in status quo. Status quo will break, I am very sure, in a year or two. But then if we don't change our own social perspective, these will also not work. So we as a society, because of our own last 70 years of, clueless, so-called secular, irreligious approach to our social life and responsibility or sense of belonging to the nation, where everybody wants to go out because this nation is good for nothing, this quote unquote feeling has been given to us for last 70 years. That is breaking now. Since 2014, this is breaking now. So when it breaks, then we take up the responsibility of using our institutions that exist today. You will find things change very fast. Depending on the government all the time asking, ye kaun karega? Bhai, hum karo na. Who stopped you from doing it? When Hindus own up this, things will change. So I think we need to
In
point
fact,
fingers inwards and we'll
yeah,
find
in fact,
answers.
I've seen this in the NRI community, no matter what you say. And in the US and UK, temples are under community control. It's not under government control. They are actually able to do quite a good job of,
Yeah.
because they take certain personal accountability. Here, we want a MyBab state or school or
Yeah.
somebody, like parents want to outsource, or the community wants to outsource it to someone else. They don't want to walk the hard yards. But coming
Yeah.
back to one thing,
Right.
digital and social media and technology, how do you think that can be an ally in terms of, you know, I feel there is a,
It's a huge area already. Yeah, it's a huge area
okay,
already. As I said, that for example, ISKCON, for example, Chinmay Mission, traditional old way, or if you find the new, there's a lot of new podcasts, a lot of new Instagram accounts, a few of them, YouTube, etc., which provide excellent data, excellent information in a very entertaining manner. We can't have heavy duty discussions all the time, pravachans all the time. So we need to provide something which can easily be digested by the youth. Can we do that? For example, there's Namah Shivaya chant recently. You done with a little pep, and which became a viral hit. So can we do more experiments which people can really enjoy, young boy and girls? Okay, I can chant this also. Or I talked about Adichie and many such podcasts which are giving wonderful information to the youth. They need to increase, and there's the best possible way because your reach is unlimited, global reach. See, NRIs in US or UK, etc., or even let us say people who are much earlier migrants in let us say in Mauritius or Seychelles, etc., they preserved their culture through their own, whatever they could pass on to the children. They had only Ramcharitmanas to talk about that. With that, they did it. NRI, when they realized, see what happens, how did it start? NRI went from a solid faith from India with a lot of Indianness and all that. The boys and the girls kept their culture close to their heart, but became westernized externally. But when the children went to schools, when somebody said, I am a Christian, I am Muslim, this is what I do, this is what I don't do, what is your religion? The guy doesn't know. So a child comes home and says, who am I? So when parents realize, boy, my boy doesn't know who he is, or my girl doesn't know who she is, then they realize, okay, I have to teach them something. So this urge to teach the boys and girls come from the external pressures. It was not inherently born out of heart that I must make the child ready that we are speaking today because of majority community. We feel so secure, we feel so safe, and we feel we know our religion. But don't realize you ask a question on any quiz center, and our children don't know the next character in that particular episode. With this, that is the difference between living in a country where you don't have a roots. You have to strike roots. You have to strike an identity to feel secure. So their job is different. For us, we have to secure what we already have because we are the source of strength even to PIOs and NRs. Ultimately, to look at Bharat. When some child comes to Bharat and saw a dilapidated Ayodhya, I went to Ayodhya a few years back. I felt so sad about it. Now when I go to there, I feel proud. So when parents bring their child to India, what do we show them? So if we are able to show them something good, they feel good about the country of origin. They may be westernized, they may be typically Americanized, but ultimately the roots lie here. Similarly, we as Indians, when we realize that this is our job and this is what we are, so how to make simple, digestible, episodes on YouTube, on Instagram, that is where the talent lies. I think that is the only way forward, that we create those kind of bhajans, those kind of writings, those kind of histories, those kind of easily digestible capsules. Now there is Mr. Abhijit Chavda. He just answers questions and is super hit. And he answers questions on history, answers questions on various questions, whatever you ask him. And he's a super hit YouTuber. You go to so many other YouTubers who are doing very light-hearted, very good content. You have to create content which is cool enough for the youth to get engaged, right? Which only people of your age can do it. People of my age can only provide, some ideas, but we can't. Even if we want to, can't become peppy. We can't really, start doing hip hop on this. For that, you need people like your age.
So somewhere, I was wondering about this. Do you think these neo-Hindu spiritual movements, yoga gurus, ashrams, because of course the traditionalists kind of don't really like them, but somewhere I feel they have a very strong network, sense of community, the group activities they do, the cultural programs they do. Do you think there are some lessons there?
See, you're talking about today's guru. I'll talk about Radha Swami Satsang, which is in Punjab for donkey's years. I think I was a child since there it's there. They have sense of community. Any sect you go, in Maharashtra, you have Varkari Sampradaya. In Gujarat, you have some Sampradaya. Everywhere, whether it's Sampradaya, you have, for example, these Swaminarayan. They are all offshoots of Hindu Dharma. Or Lingayats, they have that discipline, they have got the sense of community. Unfortunately, the larger, I would say loosely knitted Hindu doesn't have any discipline, doesn't have a sense of community. When they go to a particular sect, they immediately fall into the discipline. because a sense of identity. Athole Guruji used to be there in Maharashtra. His sect is still there, Swadhyay Parivar. So that sense of belonging comes when a little smaller, tighter group with similar views. So when a Lingayat has certain common traditional values, when your ISKCON is certain common traditional ideas or their own culture, their own history. See, interesting part how things can be made easy to understand. For example, ISKCON. I have strong objection to, I mean, not objection, I would say I'm a little cynical about saying only Krishna is true, everywhere else is wrong. That is typical Semitic way or Christian way of looking at Krishna. But what they did, they made it very simple for Westerner to understand. भैया वो भगवान है तुम भक्त हो ही इज अ गॉड एंड यू आर अ सिनर सो यू either you follow Christ, you don't like Christ, follow Krishna. So you just have to change the god, but your basic thinking doesn't change, right? So you are a sinner, you are a human being who looks at God for solving your problems. So if you don't fit into Christ or Christian way of thinking, you say, okay, this looks quite okay for me, replace Christ with Krishna, and I will be able to understand with better, whatever better is philosophical ideas. So you will find Chinmaya mission not being so successful in terms of followers in anywhere in the world. They started much earlier because they're very strongly Vedantic followers. While ISKCON created a very typical duality. So this Advait very difficult for Westerners to understand. Dvait they can understand. So ISKCON follows Dvait. They got followers. Now similarly, when a guru puts the same idea from the Vedic thing to Upanishads and puts a simple word and still disowns the source, that is my problem. So you will say, I am saying this, but the guru will not say, but I am, this is from particular Veda, this from particular Upanishad. So you want to create your own cult. That cult has a lot of followers. They will slowly come to Hindu Dharma finally, maybe. But why guru is fighting shy of owning up the source or actually declaring the source, because that is kind of a copyright of Hindu Dharma. So that is my only problem, is short problem. Otherwise, all these sects are a huge or very big barrier to convergence, because they create a sense of community. They provide you financial support, they provide you economic, and they provide you respect. They provide you various other closely organizations, benefits. So they will not convert. Even the so-called useless deras of Haryana, Punjab, they were major bulwarks of anti-conversion drive. That is the reason they were made targets. They made some simple pronouncement, they did some bhajan, they did something good for the poor, and those neglected sections of society went to these deras. So in that way, deras helped control the conversion. They gave them some spiritual solace and also economic solace. Now those deras are destroyed. I can forget about Ram Rahim, etc. But generally those deras are hated, and the saints are tried to be destroyed because they are actually bulwark against convergence. So we cannot write them off. They are good. They are doing good job. They are doing whatever is in a way positive. They may be having their own control. That is true of even Christian institutions. That is true of even sects within a particular religion, whether Christian or Islamic or we have other sects. So, but they are doing some good job. We just look at the negative, it's not good. They have been able to keep them together. They have been able to provide them solace. They have been able to provide them help. That emotional help that they provide is very good. But ultimately, they must realize that all this comes from our Hindu Dharma. If we just start recognizing that, then of course, then we become much more stronger around. Even I have not understood why Hindu is not disciplined till he becomes a Swadhyay. Why Hindu is not disciplined till he becomes Swaminarayan Bhakt. You are the same person. You are still following the same religion. I don't have any answer to that. Only thing is community feeling puts that sense of belonging, the discipline into place. You have one person to follow the guru. So when guru says do this, people do this. That is why the need for the guru. But only issue, as I said, trying to wean away, that is not happening. But deras and all the smaller, communities actually do a very positive role for the dharma at a larger stage. On why we are indisciplined as a larger community but disciplined as a smaller community, I'm still finding answer.
Yeah, I think it's a work in progress. Somewhere, and this is in the larger question of urbanization. So urbanization obviously leads to certain dilution of caste boundaries, right? And that larger Hindu identity coalesces. You'll see that the Indic cultural socio-political movement is actually started in urban areas and then now has gone to the countryside. But at the same time, when you come to the urban area, you focus at the larger, the caste barriers go. but at the same time there are more possibilities of cultural disconnect as well with urbanization. How do you see, and because there are certain communities in the village which kind of still keep you rooted, what solutions there could be, you think, for urban based communities with all the problems that we have today with urbanization? How do you think this can be solved?
Well, Vinit, actually, we were talking all the while of urban communities only. The derecession doesn't happen
Correct.
in the rural areas. Despite all the efforts of Naxals, of communists, of New Left, they are so rooted to their culture even today, despite TV, etc. That is what is the saving grace of Hindu society, not the urban youth or not the urban people. So problem basically is urban. When you talk to deracination, it is urban because in school, in the rural areas, when they go to school, they come back to the same traditions. So for them being deracinated is not so easy. Of course, they rebel. There is no doubt. They also need education where they can be proud of whatever values we talked about. At the same time, urban area, this is the issue. As you rightly said, temple can be one. RS Shaka is, of course, another center. Then various other Sanskar Kendras or Bal Gokulams are doing small activities at society level, at community level, providing them the right platform, giving them small capsules of knowledge, small capsule of devotion, small capsules of information, which will keep children rooted. And also parents, training of the parents. So RSS is running a program called Kutumba Prabodhan, which is basically addressing the family, where they tell the family to at least once in a week sit together for dinner without TV on, anything on, and sit together, eat and discuss. Not film, not sports, not politics. Discuss your own community, your own issues, your own dharma, religion, etc. So there is a binding. That binding can happen only when you sit together, not watching TV together. That doesn't bind anybody. So nowadays, when you sit together in a meeting, you come together, friends, 20 friends with 20 mobiles or even 30 mobiles. So you start looking at each other, your sharing is only WhatsApps. Actually, don't even communicate, you don't even talk. So that has to start. So when you move away, we come together without the mobile, without the TV. That is when the bonding happens. So that is an effort to create that sense of importance to family, the happiness of the family. What happens is your responsibility. The guy will say, come on, I have to go to club, I have to go this and that. But when you have a happy child, when you have a happy grandchildren and children, you see the atmosphere of the family, you see the happiness on the child's face. If we are able to bring that crucial aspect of importance of family and our own emotional happiness, your own happiness as a parent. When you come and just keep on looking at TV and then open your laptop and do work, you will never be stress free. You never understand the bonding between child and the father or the mother or the grandchildren. So to put away those things away at least once a week and sit together can start this wonderful journey. And that is where the starting point is. Next starting point is our own areas, providing children the right information that in an entertaining manner, using social media, electronic media the max. So you spread very fast your ideas. I've seen this YouTubes and these podcasts multiplying in such a huge manner in shortest possible time because people are hungry for this content. Parents know we have to give something to the child. They don't know where to find it. Parents know we are at fault. We have not done what we are supposed to do, but where to do. So that is where people are more community oriented, have to play a role in providing that kind of platform. They can come together, send their children, and give them some value education in the right manner. Where they go home and they say, "Okay, I've done something good. I have learned something." In the Sanskar Kendras, we used to do in some slums, and one parent was very happy. He said, "This child made me, stop my drinking."
Wow.
Because he was taught in the sanskar kendra, you go home, touch your parents' feet. He said he comes and touches my feet. How can be drunk and get him, touch my feet? So the parent had to stop drinking. How these things happen, how smallest things happen, without even you realizing how it changes the perception of the child and the parents. We don't even realize. Touching the feet in our sanskar is very important, but we teach them. We say, no, no, don't call me uncle, don't call me auntie, don't touch my feet. No, 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 no. We are modern, we are friends. That does that actually is important. The child has to learn that there is an elder person I must respect, and the elder has to behave in a way that is respected.
Yeah.
So these things are actually positives, not negatives. You can still be friends. When a father teases his child with a beer or a whiskey at the age of 16, says, "Sit with me and drink with me. You are my friend," And the child abuses the father, you can't blame the child. Because the child says, वो तो मेरा दोस्त है, तो दोस्त को गाली दे सकता हूँ. So when the father wants to tell him something as a father, the guy doesn't agree that you are my father. So lot of values are there in a system which don't even realize, and smallest perception that works actually. We had a manager from HCL in my business, and he used to say, I'm talking of 1995, 96. He used to say, guys, don't call me, I think his name was Prakash ji, say Prakash. So after a few months, he came to me, Sharda ji, these people are not, they are fighting with me, they are, they're teasing me, they don't listen to me. ऐसा तुमने बोला था मेरे को जी मत बोलो, मुझे सर मत बोलो. भैया तुम सीनियर और सर बोल लेने दो ना, क्या जाता है. So when you don't have that respect for a senior, you will not listen to the senior. So it may be fine for the American civilization, but for us, when we give somebody respect, you receive respect. So then you realize that this idea of friendship and all is fine, but when you are in a job, when you're doing something as senior, you have to gain respect by doing what you do properly. So small things, that a lot of things we don't even realize through our own traditional value systems of doing namaskar or touching feet of the elder, or speaking in a certain way in front of the elders, etc., or not drinking or smoking in front of your seniors. We may sound very civilized when you say, okay, mere samne piyo, mere samne khao, but when you then again when you become father, you are not father anymore. So that is why we can be modern, at the same time we can have all the fun in the family, but at the same time these relations values, now we don't know who is Mosi, who is Mama, who is Tau. We know only all uncles and aunties, or not even from your own family. Uncle auntie बोलते तुम तो मेरे दोस्त हो. So where is that sense of belonging कि मेरी माँ की बहन है, मेरी माँ का भाई है, और ये सारी एक फैमिली है. जब तक उसकी इंपॉर्टेंस समझ, wherever I have seen this happen in North or in Gujarat, wherever there are joint families or living nearby, you see the atmosphere of the family. You see their own value system. I know Marwadi family where the father used to sing bhajans every Sunday. Then the boys and girls started singing bhajans. Now their daughters also started singing bhajans. I saw their 5-6-year-old children are singing bhajans once in a week. And now because younger children have other life, busy life, they have created their own group. So elders come together on a Sunday. The other younger group comes on Sunday, on some other day together, because they have their own, family issues, their other kind of entertainment, etc. But they're still following. So I have seen 3 generations still singing bhajans on Sunday in the same family, staying separately, coming together on the day. So if you find some reasons to come together, you find all these value system coming up automatically and everything falling into place.
Great. And finally, what is your, how do you see this pan out in the future? Do you think we'll be able to break this cycle, or do you think we are heading downhill? What's your prognosis?
I am very positive.
Okay.
See, I come from a generation which has seen the highs of being modern and secular, the low of being modern and westernized, and the total deracination and the rise of new youth who want to know, who want to do something. People of your age who are even putting your holidays on certain work that you believe is voluntarily done good. And I've seen huge change in our way we look at it, like our nation, our culture, our dharma. I've seen I am working with RSS for since my entire lifetime. I've seen even the approach to look at RSS in a very different from the youth who are joining RSS in a big way. It's very small compared to the size of the population, but looking at the size of the voluntary organizations world over, and they are joining ISKCON, they are joining Chinmay Mission, they are joining some other activity or some other activity. So this urge to that sense of positivity I see is unparalleled, what I've seen all my life. I've seen when Hindu Dharma was insulted, abused, ridiculed. When yogasana were ridiculed, people were told it's just twisting around bodies, etc. From that, this journey to where we feel proud about our culture, our knowledge system. We never knew about our cultural, scientific and mathematical achievements. Never. We came to know when we became old, but yet young people know today. That is being celebrated as exchange. I have a book by Dr. Kamble, who has written a book on imperishable seed, which basically talks about total with complete data about the various mathematical achievements of Bharat, picking up various sources, and where he also goes back to why it happens in a certain way. Now that these are the kind of books that are coming out, and he's a young person. I'm not talking about senior people like Rajiv Malhotra, young person. So when these people write, definitely see a change. Sanjeev Sena's book of history, Land of Six Rivers and Ocean of Churn, they are selling in millions of copies. Why? Because people want to learn. People say something is wrong. What is wrong? They want to learn, they want to read, they want to watch. So I am very positive that this spark that has been lit now, that is, I mean, this 100 years of RSS work, which has seen now 97 years, which seen this rise. As I said, from time when we were, kind of untouchables to kind when people search us out as people who are imbibed in Hindu values and who are trying to, nurture those values, and also others who are doing this work. We are not alone. Various Hindu Dharma sects, various other institutions. There are thousands of such people who meet and you find who are doing this wonderful work. This was never there. So this change that we see is actually making very positive. I think youth will take upon themselves to change the entire world. Now, New Left is no more able to penetrate except some urban centers, not various other places, and they are being challenged. Who was challenging them earlier, whether the left or the set narrative? The youth are challenging and challenging and setting up their own narrative. And when they say this is what truth is, so it requires very few people to change. World over, when you say any revolution, any reform, it's just 3-4% who did it, right? It is not millions who are required. You require people in thousands, in lakhs. They are there now, and that is, I see, very positive. That tomorrow is very bright.
Great. I think with that, we come to the end of this conversation. Thank you so much, Ratanji, for giving us your valuable time.
Thanks, Vinny. We missed many appointments. Finally, we're able
Yeah,
to do
yeah,
it.
finally. But I hope we'll have many more such appointments with you. And would like to have you back on the show. So with that, we come to the end of this chat, guys. Please do comment, like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And until next time, we will see you around. Signing off.